There are bad movies. There are so bad they're funny movies. And then there's Battlefield Earth, a movie so catastrophically awful, it's practically its own religion. Released in the year 2000, the same year the world got Gladiator and American Psycho, Battlefield Earth somehow thought audiences were craving 2 hours of tilted camera angles, neon slime, and John Travolta in what looks like a Spirit Halloween Predator wig. Now, this film isn't just bad. It's historically bad. Like, cinema crash site bad. It's the kind of movie that makes you question how anyone read the script and said, yes, this deserves $70 million in a theatrical release. And yet what's wild is that this mess was based on a book that was actually good. Yeah, I said it. The 1982 novel Battlefield Earth by L. Ron Hubbard, yes, that L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of the Church of Scientology, was surprisingly wholesome, optimistic, and rooted in faith in humanity. The book is basically a pulpy space epic about mankind's indomitable spirit. But the movie? The movie looks like it was directed by someone who's never seen sunlight or sobriety. So our story begins in the year 3000 AD. Civilization has collapsed, and humanity is now basically a bunch of cave people living in small tribes, afraid of gods, demons, and high-definition cameras. Enter our protagonist, Jonnie Goodboy Tyler. Yes, that's his real name, Jonnie Goodboy Tyler, a name that sounds less like a hero and more like either a Labrador retriever who won Best in Show or a 1970s adult film star. Jonnie Goodboy, because apparently just Jonnie wasn't pure enough, decides to leave his primitive village to find medicine and maybe some plot structure. But before long, he's kidnapped by the alien overlords known as the Cyclos, who look like Klingons that got kicked out of Hot Topic. Now, let's talk about the real star of this intergalactic fever dream, John Travolta, who plays Turl, the head of security for the Cyclos on Earth. Travolta gives a performance so over the top it could orbit Saturn. He delivers every line like he's auditioning for a Vegas drag show called Alien Daddy Issues. He cackles, he sneers, he rolls his R's like he's in a community theater production of Cats. Every sentence sounds like it ends in mwahaha. Turl's entire personality can be summed up as disgruntled middle manager who also commits war crimes. He's stuck on Earth for 50 more cycles because he offended a senator, which, to be fair, feels like something John Travolta might actually do at a Scientology brunch. Meanwhile, Jonnie Goodboy and his fellow cavemen, including guys named Carlo, Rock, and Mickey, are enslaved by the Cyclos to mine gold. Yes, gold. In the year 3000. Because apparently, even intergalactic overlords still believe in the gold standard. But Turl has a scheme. He'll secretly use the humans to mine gold for himself so he can get rich and finally leave Earth. Because if there's one thing you can count on, it's that the villain in a bad sci-fi movie will always have a side hustle. Turl decides that Jonnie, whose IQ up to this point has been rocks are hard, is the perfect candidate to learn alien technology. So he puts him in a learning machine, which basically force feeds alien knowledge into his brain. And somehow, in about 5 minutes, Jonnie goes from caveman to aerospace engineer, because nothing says character development like alien Rosetta Stone. Now that Jonnie knows how to read, write, and pilot alien ships, he starts planning humanity's rebellion. He gathers a bunch of cavemen, gives them guns they don't know how to load, and somehow teaches them to fly Harrier jets in just a week. Yes, you heard that right. Cavemen in fighter jets after 7 days. It's like if the Flintstones met Top Gun but was directed by someone who's never seen either movie or Gravity. Meanwhile, John Travolta is still strutting around like a space Karen, laughing at his own jokes and chewing every piece of scenery not nailed down. His character motivation changes every 10 minutes, but his hairline remains a constant act of science fiction. So the grand plan is blow up the alien dome, teleport a nuke to the Cyclo home planet, and save humanity. What follows is a series of explosions so badly edited, they look like they were done in Windows Movie Maker by someone holding the mouse with their feet. Jonnie Goodboy manages to trick Travolta into blowing off his own arm, which is honestly poetic justice for that accent. Then the nuke goes off on the Cyclo planet, the aliens die, and humanity is free. And the final image? John Travolta's alien Turl, trapped in a cage surrounded by gold, like a cosmic Ebenezer Scrooge who just found out he's not getting a sequel. When Battlefield Earth came out, critics didn't just hate it, they obliterated it. It won 8 Razzie Awards, including Worst Picture of the Decade. Roger Ebert called it a visually ugly film that's not fun to watch, which is Ebert speak for, "This movie made my soul itch." Even Travolta later admitted it was a mistake, though to be fair, not as big a mistake as the sequel they were planning before it bombed so hard it left a crater in Hollywood. The cinematography? Dutch angles so tilted they should have come with Dramamine. The dialogue? Delivered like everyone was underwater. The makeup? Half Predator, half Swamp Mall Santa. The movie feels like it was shot entirely inside a fog machine and edited by someone who was dared not to blink. And here's the tragic twist. The book it's based on is actually kind of great. Say what you will about L. Ron Hubbard, and there's a lot to say. But Battlefield Earth, the novel, is a classic sci-fi underdog story. It's optimistic, full of faith in human ingenuity and resistance, and has this almost old-school, we can rebuild civilization vibe. The movie? It's like that same story got abducted, experimented on, and dropped back on Earth with brain damage. So while Hubbard's book believed in humanity's strength, the movie believed in John Travolta's ability to act through dreadlocks and 7 pounds of prosthetic cheekbones. And that, my friends, is how one of the most infamously bad movies of all time turned a decent sci-fi novel into 2 hours of cinematic humiliation. If you've never seen Battlefield Earth, don't. Just watch Cats and The Room back to back and imagine aliens. You'll get the same experience without needing therapy afterward. But if you have seen it, congratulations. You've survived a cult classic of incompetence, a cinematic black hole that even light refuses to watch. And somewhere out there, Jonnie Goodboy Tyler is still flying a Harrier jet, spelling his name wrong, and wondering why everyone's laughing. And that, my friends, was Battlefield Earth, the movie that tried to go to space and crash-landed straight into the bargain bin. If you somehow made it through this cinematic disaster without losing your will to live, then you deserve a medal. Or at least a like button click. Seriously, it helps more than you think. Tell me in the comments, what's the worst movie you've ever seen that thought it was deep? Was it this one? Was it Cats? Or did you, like me, also suffer through Jupiter ascending and need to talk about it in therapy? Drop your pick below. I love reading your takes, even the unhinged ones. And hey, if you enjoyed this glorious train wreck of a deep dive, don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic crimes, forgotten flops, and the occasional masterpiece that everyone slept on. Until next time, stay curious, stay sarcastic, and remember, if John Travolta ever offers to produce your movie, just say no.